Good morning, my cookie crumbs. And what a cold morning it is, my goodness. When you have to wake up at ass o'clock to scrape off your windscreen and get your car warmed up and started, it's too freaking cold. Alright, anyways, so this story is on its last few legs. We only have maybe a chapter or two to go, and then it is over. I feel like the story's starting to kind of like drag on a little, so I want to get it completed. And then we'll focus more on Two Birds in a Cage, and then Into the Shadows, which Into the Shadows I didn't plan on being very long either, so that story should be coming to its end as well. But a sequel is in the works. Just don't expect it anytime soon because there are a lot more stories that I want to get started and focused on. And then I will announce the sequel. Alright, anyways, let's get started, shall we? Izuku had no time to mourn the loss of his mother. That was two mothers he had lost. His birth mother and his adopted mother. He couldn't believe that she was gone. Skinned alive from what his dad and papa were telling him. He trained even harder now. He had to. He needed to avenge his mother's death. Both of them. He now understood why his real mother abandoned him. It wasn't out of malice. It was out of protection. She did it to keep him safe. He should have realized, but he didn't. The others were worried about him as they watched him train almost day and night. He needed to be ready for All for One. He needed to be ready to slay the monster. Even Bagago was worried about him and tried to get him to stop training a few times, to just mourn. But Izuku wasn't having it. He was on a self-destructive path and no one knew how to help him. His papa finally put an end to it after watching him self-destruct for a while. He couldn't stand it. So he dragged Izuku by the ear, forced him to eat and spend time with his family. Izuku didn't realize how much his family missed him and how much they were dealing with, and he felt really, really bad for essentially ignoring them. He hugged his dad, his papa, and his siblings and told them they were sorry. They were forgiving, especially Kaminari, who just wanted his bro back. Soon the day came. It was time for the big one. Izuku versus All for One. He was ready. Well, in his mind he was ready. Physically, though, he was trembling. He was scared. He was anxious. He was everything in the book that you could think of. It has come to this, but he wasn't ready. There was no other way. He had to be ready. Ah, there you are, my son, ready to return home. With you? Never. But why not? You were doing so well with your training. You were getting so strong and so powerful. You were becoming a monster. And I will not be like you. A monster. Like me. My boy, I am not a monster. You are a monster, a downright boogeyman. And I'm here to slay the beast. You and your reign of terror, it's done. Look at your little league of villains. Defeated already. Taken down because you were more focused on me than you were them. All for One looked, and Izuku was right. Since he was more focused on his son rather than his own little league of villains, they were defeated pretty quickly and pretty badly. Now it's just you and me, Izuku said, taking his scythe and his weapon of choice, ready to cut off All for One's head and put it on a pike. I'm ready for you. Let's dance, Daddy dearest. Oh, Izuku. I'll teach you a lesson you will not soon forget. And the fight was on. At first, All for One was holding back. He didn't want to hurt his son, despite him hurting him during all of his training. Izuku didn't hold back whatsoever. He was prepared for this day. And it truly looked like Izuku was dancing. Twirling around, spinning his scythe. Truly a sight. He looked like a ballet dancer. Soon, Class 1A joined him in the fight. Something he was particularly glad for. Together, All for One was brought down. How does it feel, Dad, to be defeated by a bunch of teenagers? Not only that, by a quirkless teenager, no less. If I go down, I am taking you with me, he said. All for One placed his hand on the ground, and the next thing Izuku knew, he had been impaled by a spike. His classmates shouted in horror. His adopted dads looked on in horror. The rest of the heroes, they rushed over to help him. Izuku took his scythe and brought it down with one mighty swing with the last of his strength and took off All for One's head. Izuku couldn't speak. He dropped his weapon. When the spike vanished, he dropped to his knees, with Kaminari and Hitoshi catching him. Izuku? No! Hey, hold on. Hang in there, Izuku. We need help! Where's a medic? The classmates were crying for a recovery girl, a medic, someone. Even Bakugo was shouting. Soon, Izuku's adopted parents ran up. Izuku, baby. Look at me, honey. Look at me. No, don't speak. Save your strength, baby doll. Izuku, you're gonna be fine. We're here. Your family has you. Big brother? Izuku looked at Eri with an apology in his eyes. Eri just nodded her head. She knew what she had to do, but Izuku shook his head. Eri wanted to help, but this may be one injury that she couldn't. Instead, she looked to All for One, who seemed like he was about ready to regenerate, His head was moving towards his body. Before that could happen, she went up to his body and rewound it. Rewound it to the point where it was nothing but a gross, wiggling little fetus. His head stopped moving, while his body, his headless little gross body wiggled. Kotsky snarled and stomped on the fetus. It was disgusting, but at least All for One was truly dead. The rest of the class took All for One's head and disposed of it. Eri went over to Izuku and placed her little hand on top of the gaping wound. I can't let you suffer, big brother. I'm sorry. She rewound the wound, and Izuku gasped for breath. There was nothing but a scar there now. But Izuku still couldn't breathe. While Eri rewound the wound, the damage was still done. Izuku ended up passing out. He didn't know what happened after that. He floated in darkness when he heard a voice, a familiar voice. Oh, Cub. Mom? Hi, Cub. Mom. He opened his eyes and raced over towards her to give her the biggest hug ever. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. Rest, Cub. Rest. Izuku did as he was told and rested against his mother like he always did. The two simply just existing for a little while. Yeah, I know, I'm still not that great at writing battle scenes. That and, legitimately, All for One just never trained himself. He just stole quirks. And, buddy, if you don't train your quirk, it's not gonna work. All those quirks, and for what? And for what, my dude? Also, I think a bunch of teenagers can actually defeat All for One. I have a whole ass theory about it, but that's a different thing for a different day. We'll save that one for a snow day. Quote, unquote. Alright, guys. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.